Hey everyone, how you doing today? I had some fun yesterday and worked on this crazy looking CV quite a bit. Got it all skin and textured. Most of the body is done. I have yet to do the interior on it. It's still sitting happy with CPU. Um, doesn't have a lot to play with. I'll have to see where the storage fits in. I don't think it's going to have much in other utilities, at least stock. If I can fit in places, to put more parts, especially something to do with production, I think I'll do that. Even if it's going to require increased CPU beyond the standard Reforged Eden limits. Now, right now, also, it's just equipped with a bunch of Canon turrets. Final turret spec on here is 35 turrets. Um, Now, granted, these are cheap in CPU, and a lot of turrets in gameplay you'd probably want to have as rocket launchers or plasma or other things. Um, these I did want it to come stock with the artillery and the laser cannons because it's amazing how I never seem to get to upgrade those in game, and that's the most fun weapons to use in my opinion if you're gonna fly around and shoot stuff. I like the fixed placed weapons myself, and with the right shots, you can aim at what you want to target. A lot of times where the turrets are shooting at stuff I don't really want them to be shooting at. I know you can tell the turrets what to fire at, like generator or turrets but it's still like if you got one in mind, like hey, there's two right here that are shooting me. I want to take them out. It's nice to have those fixed weapons in there to do that. But anyway, this is kind of what it looks like. Now, there's been a lot of suggestions. Now, I am using a mix of Xeno and combat steel primarily on this. Now, it's possible that I might take the combat steel and reduce that to hardened steel. Um, the bulk of its defense is Xeno. You don't see a lot of that though. I've been trying to fit it into the body. Like I'm covering up Xeno with this carbon substrate thin wall here, and then these are actually Xeno blocks like behind here. And this is actually Xeno. I just found one texture that sort of works out all right. Um, I've got a bit much of the this, but Skaar did have some red texture lights on there, just not a whole lot, and I've been trying to get those around here as well. The back side is looking like this. Now, one suggestion was to have it reversible, like where you have a cockpit and it flies this direction. Um, my biggest problem with that is I've got double the thrust power going the other way. I've only got a single XL thruster in reverse, and I did shield that now too, so that is protected better than it was. It's actually brought back a couple blocks, and then I got the grates over the front of it, which should hopefully help that a little bit too. Um, so I haven't done the bottom yet, so don't mind the bottom. It's there's a lot of Xeno down there and things like that. Entry way I've plotted that out though. It's a little bit different than the ships that I built before. I don't know if it's going to have both doors here yet, but it goes in through a door, a blast door, and you're going to be going around that direction. Now the shield's not going to be here. All the interior parts are going to be probably elsewhere from where they are currently. It's mostly a placeholder. So I figured this way, when you climb in, you have like no direct shot like coming into it, and I'll have to figure out exactly where the player is going to sit in here. In this front section here, I did reinforce this whole front area a lot. It's filled with some Xeno. It could be filled with some more Xeno yet. I do have room for parts. However, like the shield is not going to be there, but it's probably going to be basically where you come in, and then you kind of get to just a main room, and that's going to have some of the generators on display somewhere in the warp core and some of the parts. Speaking of the warp, oh, yeah, I got the warp drive over there, and then places for core blocks, things like that, and a couple storage containers. Probably two 320Ks. Now this ship does not have a huge amount of lift thrust on it. It's got two of the large CV thrusters. It's not really designed to move a lot of weight and primarily be fighting in space, but hopefully it can fly planet side too. I'll have to see on that one. But that's kind of where it's at. It's a weird concept. I did some other changes to the body since I showed it last. Well, a lot of changes. I actually stretched it out by 3 blocks too, so it's 3 blocks longer than it once was. Um, and I did that because I had a 45-degree angle in front of these turrets here, but everything else is running at a 22.5, and it looked off to me. So I actually cut the design in a couple places. I like cut the whole front and pulled it out 1 block, pasted it, and did it again over here, and then did it again one more time over here to provide this separation, mainly for cosmetic effects, I suppose, but it's just weird. It's kind of got like these 2 front things on them now. I thought that was kind of cool, a little different. Break it up a bit. But yeah, that is where it's at. Now, I wanted to cover a couple other things in this video too. Now, first, I want to say thanks to people giving me recommendations on this one before I released it. I did try to take advantage of all the recommendations. One big one was the landing gear on this are actually control the doors and the ramps. I found that to be actually kind of cool. I appreciate the suggestion. It's the first time I've ever done it with a creation, and I like the results, quite frankly. Also, I used the landing gear to turn off these front thrusters here. So when you walk in, when it's landed, you don't get burnt, like walking right through there. Also, another suggestion was to move the third passenger seat to the other side. I did that so you'd have a clean hallway going down this side. The only side effect of that, and it didn't affect anything, is when you get in and out of this creation, it shifts you. Well, here, let me get out. If I get out of God mode, I can't. I don't have any gravity, but it shifts you out to this side every time you get out of the cockpit, and and this works. I tested that. I was a little skeptical on that. I wanted to have the cockpit as forward as I possibly could for the best visibility. I could have changed that, moved this back by 1 block row, but you kind of like bang your head on it, but it allows you out of the seat fine. So I left it all the way up front there. So that is that. Now, the next thing, on the last video, I asked about a bunch of suggestions for future creations. There's some really good ones. In fact, there's a lot of them that I think sound really cool to do. But I'll just kind of read off what now some of these I kind of combined because they were similar. So suggestion 1, really big CV carrier, potentially asymmetrical, no center structure. So like the Persis had a center structure going down the middle of it, which if you're trying to park large CVs on it, divides up your landing area in the middle. And that kind of, it doesn't allow for large creations. The Leviathan also does the same thing. So a large CV carrier, if it's Asym, imagine something a little more like the Draper, but probably not MCRN and probably bigger. Now, one suggestion was to have something so large that you could fit a ship the size of the Trebuchet in the hangar. That's scary. That's scary big because that's not a small ship. I'm not even sure how to pull off hangar doors at that point in time to get something that big in there. You'd have to pretty much use force fields. It could probably be done, but that might be a lot. Just an enormous ship. Now, I like big designs. I've noticed too that other people like big designs too. Sometimes, when I release like really larger things, you would think a lot, for the most part, like let's take the Leviathan for instance. You would think that not many people would want it or sub it because it's just like too big for normal gameplay, but it actually seems to have the exact opposite. What I can tell from subs, it seems like the really big creations out there get a lot of attention. Maybe people are just checking them out. So they sub them and take a look at them in creative or whatnot, but they do seem to get a lot of attention. Um, so I'm not fearing building something big. I just want to make sure I got a good plan before I start one. And I do like the big carrier asymmetrical idea. So moving on to the next thing would be I kind of combined a few thoughts into this one. Skaar POI slash converted to a player base or potentially a space station, and I'm going to add in Asym or asymmetrical on that one as well. One project I did want to do would be a asymmetrical space station, maybe for Skaar, probably for Skaar. The humans have got, I could go MCRN with it. I guess it depends what mood I'm in with that, or even Kriel. Um, but I might do a build video on that when I decide I want to start the project because it's going to be a big one. The idea I have right now for a space station, obviously I want it to be able to support some modules and things like that too. But the main structure of it would be, um, imagine like a small city with buildings on top of a platform. Um, and then below the platform, some of the buildings actually go down the other side too. But nothing. It's not like a formation. It's like just kind of random-ish. So that's one idea I had for a space station. Now on the Skaar player base, I do have the God. What did I even call that now? Oh no, the Man, I forget my own creation names. That sucks. But I've got that thing that's kind of on tracks, but it's a base. It's a Skaar production base, but it looks like it moves. I love that idea. I love that idea. And one of the other ideas in here also was to have a sand crawler type of carrier that supports HVs, and maybe it's a HV itself. Now that's something different. That's something I've never thought about before. I'll have to put a little more thought into that. Um, Another one would be almost like a Dreadnought type of ship that also has helios docking bays, like a big combat endgame combat CV. Psycho, a lot bigger than what I'm working on currently. Um, I'm looking at a list, so I'm not flying around in here. Let me get back here a minute. Um, Another one would be a abandoned temple-like creation. That's kind of interesting. That would be kind of fun to try. I've never really tried that type of thing. I've seen it done on some other POIs, and it can be pretty cool. It'd be like a different set of textures and colors and everything else. So I will definitely think about that one too. Another one is a futuristic skyscraper. I like those. I think one of those would make a really cool like build tutorial video too, because it depends. If you're doing if it's just an exterior, they can go pretty quickly, especially if you're using some parts that can be copied and pasted. Um, so that is something pretty interesting too. Another suggestion was start a creation or a ship base, something, but start building it from the interior first, and then build an exterior around it. Um, yeah, I would like to take on that one too. So another suggestion was to build a glass cannon type of ship. Um, yeah, yeah. So something really fast, huge firepower, but can't take hits, or basically probably be totally shield dependent. If your shield drops, you're going to fall apart really quickly. Um, That's not a bad idea. That's great for high-speed maneuverability. Even with when Excalibur was flying the 258 in game, even though the game screwed up in the combat situation again, um, I was kind of watching, and he was strafing, and it can strafe at maximum speed and also kind of moving at the same time. And I have noticed by doing that circular formation around the POI that the vast majority of things that were going to hit you missed you. Some still hit, but a lot missed. and it depends what they're shooting at. Like having a little dangly turret or something that keeps on moving that the POI would be fixated on, and then but it can never actually hit it, would be like the really great idea, and that's been done on some other CVs on the workshop. Another suggestion was a ship that surrounds a POI like the Beholder. So a while back, I made the Kriel Beholder, and that was its idea. It had these giant legs on it, and it was designed to park above a normal size POI in the game. There are POIs that are too big for it, but it had ground firing turrets on it that were positioned to fire at that POI from all the different angles to try to hit the turrets on it on the POI from wherever, So it's pretty much completely surrounded. You park, you let the turrets do the job, you go and loot the POI at that point in time. The creation also had these little Kriel spores that you could dock a couple in the ship, and they were like tiny, tiny little SV that could actually fit through a standard size base hallway. Mostly. I mean, there are some circumstances that you just can't get those through, but so a lot of times you could bring them inside the POI and shoot bad guys with them. It's pretty effective. I had trouble with it when I first released those due to the logistics of moving something so small. It was like hyper speedy and almost uncontrollable, but they added in sliders since then to tone down the speed of it. So those are a bunch of suggestions in there. Now I haven't decided exactly which one I would like to tackle next yet. It might be a combination of more than one as well. So I just wanted to kind of go over that, and I like a lot of these ideas. In fact, I'll put up this list in the video too. And if people want to like vote on it, they'll all have numbers, and I'll try to tally up the votes on what you think would be the coolest of those suggestions to try. Now, of course, I want to finish up this before I really get on to another one, because I did want to use this in game and try it out a little bit as well. Something else I do want to release too, and I got my blueprint back, and that is the good old this Scarab 8 STC. And honestly, out of all this isn't a big build. This is a tiny little build, and it's nothing special at all. But it's got a 15-minute build time, even in Reforge Eden. It chops wood, and it does a good. I think it does a good job with it. It's got enough thrust power to hold. Well, it's got 6,500 cargo, which translates to about 650 logs. It can maneuver through the trees really good. It's got these 3 graders at the front of it. Does nothing else. It just moves. It can top and bottom dock. It's got a detector and Wi-Fi. Doesn't shoot anything. It's really, really cheap and easy to spawn though, and it's great for this. Honestly, if next playthrough, if I'm allowed to spawn in blueprints in that playthrough, which might not be the case, I would probably actually want to have one of these first. Reason for is you can get a lot of trees really quickly, which gives you player experience, so you level really fast. And then you got a lot of building materials with the trees, such as carbon substrate, so you can start building bases. This doesn't help you out with stone at all, but and it's also transportation. So early game transportation, being able to get around, really low level, quick spawning thing. So I'm gonna get this to the workshop. Basically, is what I've been ranting about. It takes nothing at all special. So carbon substrate, iron, copper, and silicon. 15-minute, 28-second build time in Reforged Eden. I think it's less in vanilla, and maybe a little, probably less resources too. So that's something I'm going to get to the workshop pretty soon. I used it a lot. I always want one of these around now, and it's just something I never released because honestly, it was a really quick build, and I almost feel guilty building something that only took like I don't know, whatever this took. I think I spent maybe if a half hour on it, and then maybe another 10 minutes of texture tweaking, maybe. So it's just one of those really quick builds. So that's what I wanted to cover today. Basically, show you where I'm at with this thing. Now, suggestion in here was again to potentially replace all the blocks in all the combat steel blocks with hardened steel blocks. So I'm missing some textures over here. That's the bad side. This is the good side, by the way. And maybe I'll do that. You know, it would add a little bit more maneuverability yet. With all the increased the hull design and everything I did, I think I still have this operational. I'm not sure if I removed any cores or not. It's okay. I wish it had a little more turning to it. Turning, if I just hold down the arrow key, it turns at this speed. It's not bad. For most ships, I'd be totally happy with that, especially CVs, you know. But in this case, I wouldn't mind having it a little bit faster. If I were to reduce the combat steel blocks that are on here, which are not the primary defense, by the way, because it's backed by Xeno blocks behind the combat steel blocks. The combat steel blocks are just mostly on the exterior of the hull for yeah, let me get out of the seat here a minute. Exterior of the hull for so I could texture it correctly. And that is, God, what is wrong with my controls? There we go. No, now I'm in jetpack mode. No jetpack. God mode. Come on, just go to God mode. There we go. All right. Yeah, so basically I could swap those out with lesser blocks. And that would probably reduce the weight of this quite a bit, and then I would probably get the handling I would like to have on it. But it's still, hopefully, should be pretty tough. Obviously, the front defense would be the toughest down in this section, and this may be extended out more block rows, but there's just a lot of Xeno in here right now, and I've got some more room I could fill that up with, depending on how much interior I wanted. Obviously, it's going to be a really dinky little interior on this thing, so not much of interior to do, so it shouldn't take forever and a day either. And then I do want to test this in, actually get it spawned in the Season 3 playthrough and try to get it some combat experience out there, you know. Take on some things, see how it does, see if there's vulnerabilities, see if there's unforeseen problems, you know, once the interior is done. So that's about all I had for today. I just wanted to kind of show you this and cover the suggestions. I'm going to think hard on those. I don't want to start any of the suggestions this week, but maybe next week. Might start one or two of them. I'm trying to think on what I'm the most excited about. Now, I've recently seen a couple sci-fi pictures of some pretty cool looking asymmetrical style carriers. That would be a serious thing to think about. I feel like I'm lacking some of the 4 different factions I'm doing. It's hard to get back and forth to each one of them because there's a lot of things that you can build for each one of them. The humans by far have the most. Skaar, MCRN are pretty close, as well as Kriel. I got to be in a certain mood for Kriel, though. I got to have that Kriel vibe going. So I don't know if I want to do one of these newer creations as in Kriel or not right now, but I'll think about that. But I would really, the top 2 things, or 3 things, oh man, there's so many of them. The things that I'm liking the best right now is probably like an asymmetrical large carrier, asymmetrical space station, skyscraper would be a lot of fun to do. Whether or not that gets released to the workshop or, you know, as a deco item. If you build like a realistic skyscraper, it's going to be so big, I mean, to really pull it off, that you're going to have just endless amounts of interior space to do with nothing really to put in it. And that is the biggest problem I've got with skyscrapers. That's why I like to do them for exterior looks and not so much for doing something in game with them, unless of course it's a POI or something. Maybe that could work out. Anyway, that is it for me today. I'll get that list of ideas out there, and if you want to suggest anything else, be my guest. I'm always looking for ideas. Once in a while, I kind of like get a little bit down on like ideas, or you have something that doesn't work or whatever, and it's like I'm not sure what I really need right now because I've built a lot of things in the past, and then there's things from other authors like that Excalibur's recent SV miner harvester high gravity thing. It works awesome. It's just like it works so awesome. I don't really feel the need to build something that's going to end up like it. And miners honestly are one of the least favorite things I could possibly build. They due to how mining works, you typically have very little options in, well, you have some options obviously in creativity, but with like an SV miner, you got to have the drills in a certain area, and they gotta be set up that way. And you don't want the thing big, and you can't do like fancy aesthetics very much. It's pretty much gonna have to be a box with mining drills sticking out of it. And those are honestly one of the most boring things to build after you've built some already. If you haven't ever built one, by all means. But it's fun. It's a challenge. But after you've built many of them, it gets kind of old, for sure. Anyway, you all have yourself a good day. I'll talk to you later.